I have an idea. What if all the people who complain about not being able to find a quality partner or who want better relationships actually did something about creating them? This means stop wishing for better, banking on potential, caretaking other people, putting up with shitty behavior, and instead focus on what you do have control over: yourself. Deal with your own stuff, raise your own standards, and stop tolerating less than what you actually deserve. What would it be like if that happened? You know what I think would happen? Eventually, all the people who get away with that shitty behavior, the lack of self awareness, and the irresponsible interpersonal relationship skills would have to up their game too. So here's what I propose: let's create some new love languages and set the bar there. You with me? Hi, I'm Heather. I'm a relationship and empowerment coach, and I love working with people to help them distinguish their barriers and blind spots that stop them from having the life and love they truly desire. In service of that, today we're going to talk about some new ideas or standards for you and your relationships moving forward. If you've ever done any investigating or work trying to figure out how to make your relationships better, it's likely you've come across this book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. This book introduces a couple of different ideas. One of them is the way that you receive love or that you feel loved is often the way that you will demonstrate love for other people. Another idea is that there are about 5 ways that people receive and experience love or feeling loved. So the way that you give and receive love may not match with the way that your partner gives and receives love. And then if you can think about that, then it's likely if you start trying to demonstrate love to your partner in the language or languages that they relate to, it's likely they will feel more loved by you, and therefore the relationship will improve. This book has some really helpful concepts in it. I know it's helped a lot of people. It was originally published in 1992, so it's been around for a long time, and it's still referenced and talked about 30 plus years later. Great, nothing wrong with the book. It's a good book. And what I'm suggesting is that times have changed and that we need a more direct approach if what we want to see is a real shift in the health of our relationships. What I'm suggesting is that we expect better from ourselves and others. So I'm proposing 5 new love languages. Let's dive in. Number 1, safety. Just like I need to feel physically safe in relationships in order to feel comfortable, relax, and open up, I also need to feel emotionally safe in my relationships. This means that I can talk to you without worrying about whether or not you're going to be overly reactive when you respond from a place of your triggers or your unhealed wounding from your past. Emotional safety in relationships is crucial if you want to build connection and intimacy. Authentically sharing my needs and boundaries is uncomfortable enough when I come from a culture, I've been raised in a culture that puts being polite over top of personal comfort every time. The whole, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Be polite, be nice, be kind, be quiet, all of those different things. This culture that we live in suggests that being polite is more important than actually saying the thing. So learning how to speak up and learning how to say the things that are really going on for me takes something. And if I have to worry about how you're going to respond when I do that, I'm way less likely to actually share with you. So safety in relationships requires that you are aware of your nervous system and how to regulate yourself, as well as noticing when you're dysregulated or feeling reactive, and then being responsible for that, knowing how to calm yourself down, how to soothe yourself, so that you can then engage with me in a regulated way. Number 2, ownership. Being in a relationship is a consistent investment of energy. Along with the physical things that are part of being in a partnership, like spending time together, there is mental work or mental labor that has to happen too, like planning the time we spend together. Taking ownership of a relationship means that you pay attention to it. Think of it like a house. You've found your forever home, or what you hope is your forever home. You don't just move in, unpack, and then ignore it. You pay attention to it. You do the things you need to do to maintain it. You put effort into taking care of it. You pay attention to when things need to be repaired. You pay attention to that is going to become a problem, so I need to be prepared to deal with it, or maybe I should be proactive in dealing with it and deal with it now. That's how you handle or manage taking care of an investment like a home that you really care about. So since it's an important investment, and your relationship is an important investment, they should be handled the same way. If you don't take care of it, just like a home, your relationship will deteriorate and fall apart. You have to pay attention to it. Unfortunately, so often the paying attention to the relationship will end up falling to one person, who then becomes responsible for delegating what is happening to the other person. Essentially, one person does all of the emotional or mental labor for managing the relationship. You want to talk about creating long-term resentment in the relationship? Be the passive person waiting to be delegated to. Guaranteed that there will be long-term, well, maybe not even long-term, but there will be resentment that shows up at some point in the relationship and cause major problems. Emotional labor is a real thing. Yes, getting the toilet paper for the house is doing a thing. That is a contribution to the relationship and to the house. But if no one is paying attention to whether or not the house needs toilet paper, well, you can end up in a pretty shitty situation. No pun intended. I'll link a couple of articles about emotional labor in the section below, so you can read more about it if you're confused or unsure or haven't heard about this term before. If you haven't heard about this term before, I highly recommend that you do some reading about it, because it's a real thing and it has a really significant impact on the overall health and longevity and satisfaction of relationships. In this day and age, with these new love languages I'm proposing, I say active relationship ownership is a thing. Number 3, transparency. Just tell me the truth. Tell me what your limits and boundaries are so I can respect them. Ask for what you need. Don't make me guess or try to read your mind. If something isn't working for you, tell me. Don't get passive aggressive hoping I'll get the hint. Be upfront. Don't ignore things or wait until you can't take it anymore. Listen, even if the truth is, I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but something feels a little off, or I feel a little bit anxious or shut down or defensive or whatever it is, that's better than just ignoring it or pretending like nothing's happening. When things are out on the table, we can deal with it. If you came and said, there's something going on, I feel a little weird about something, I'm not even sure what it is, we can have a great conversation about it. I can use my effective listening skills, mentioned a little later, to help understand and help you dig into what's really going on for you, so then we can talk about it and deal with it instead of letting it become a problem. So yes, it builds emotional intimacy when you are transparent in your relationships. So be transparent. Number 4, accountability. Take ownership for your impact, intended or otherwise, every single time. Don't make me chase you. Don't pretend something didn't happen. Don't tell me I'm overreacting. Basically, don't gaslight me. Own up to your mistakes and take the steps necessary to repair any damage to the trust and connection in our relationship. It requires a level of personal responsibility and accountability to do that. And it's the foundation for trust in the relationship. Last but not least, number 5, constructive conflict. Conflict in a relationship is unavoidable. According to Dr. John Gottman, in fact, 69% of problems in relationships are unsolvable. Yeah, that's right. You heard what I said. According to Dr. John Gottman's 50 plus years worth of research on relationships and marriage and what makes the good ones good, 69% of the problems are unsolvable. So what actually matters more than whether or not you come to total agreement about something is how couples choose to handle the conflict or the potential for conflict when it comes to those unsolvable problems. I don't know about you, but I never saw constructive conflict modeled for me when I was growing up. What I did see modeled was passive-aggressive sniping, undermining, stonewalling, silence, and then eventually somebody left for good. Not a great source of how to for me. In fact, more like a how not to, if you want to talk about anything. Constructive conflict requires that you have developed yourself as an effective listener, that you can listen in a way that leaves your partner feeling seen and understood. In all the work that I do with couples, this is one of the things where people think they're really good at it, and most of the time they're fair. Most people suck at listening. Most people listen from the place of waiting to respond, listening for what it is that you're telling me I did wrong so I can defend myself. Most people don't listen just from a place of curiosity. And when you're engaged in conflict or a potentially conflict-ridden situation, listening from that place is really challenging. It is a skill to develop. So learning how to listen will really improve your ability to deal with conflict in your relationship. Constructive conflict requires that you can communicate your needs and limits in a constructive way, that you know what they are, and that you can communicate them in a way that I can hear them, as well as when they've been crossed or pushed up against, that you can honor them in a respectful manner. Constructive conflict also requires that you can respond and engage in the conversation or conflict without being hijacked by your triggers and reacting from a dysregulated place. That takes something. It's a very natural reaction to respond from a triggered place. Most of us haven't dealt with all the stuff that causes all of those triggers in the first place. Those will make any conflict you're dealing with in a relationship that much worse. So learning how to manage yourself, regulate yourself, and be in a conflict or be in a conversation without reacting from that place will make conflict way easier. That requires a level of self-awareness to know when you need to ask for a break, which is also something that's not often considered or modeled inside of constructive conflict. But it's totally okay. If you are getting dysregulated, if you're getting reactive, if you're starting to feel defensive, if you feel like you can't listen to the conversation anymore in a constructive way, you need to take time out. Take a time out. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's a whole process on how to have constructive conflict. It's a skill set that you can learn. So learn it. It's a skill. It can be learned. Conflict in a relationship is normal. Ensuring that the conflict is constructive increases the likelihood of your relationship lasting and being satisfying at the same time. And who doesn't want that? So those are them. My new proposed love languages: safety, ownership, transparency, accountability, and constructive conflict. And now would probably be a good time to take a look and see whether or not you kind of measure up to those. Are you good at those new love languages? Have you done the work to figure out how to be able to be transparent and share what your boundaries are? Have you learned how to be a good listener? Can you be in a regulated state when there is conflict happening, when your partner is dissatisfied with something and coming to you with that dissatisfaction? Can you stay in a regulated state and stay in that conversation? It takes something. Have you dealt with your own stuff like all the way to the bottom so that you're the same type of person that you'd want to attract? Like you becoming the type of person that the person you're looking for would be a match with. That's really important. Looking for somebody else to make you better or to fix or solve you doesn't work inside of this new proposed love language experience. You becoming that person and then matching, being a match, meeting someone else in that same place, that's what we're talking about here. And listen, if there's any part of you that is saying this is too much, you can't ask for this, that's not true. This is not too much to ask for. If you've done the work to get here, you know it wasn't easy and you deserve to be matched or met in this place. I believe if everyone who's done the work to be in relationships in healthy ways and has learned how to do that, has dealt with their stuff, stopped tolerating anything less than this new standard, eventually it would become the new normal and everyone else would have to level up. But that would require a leap of faith to set a new standard for yourself and then have the courage and confidence to not flinch. That would take something. Are you ready? Can you do that? You deserve it. That's all I have for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this valuable or at least insightful and maybe something to think about moving forward. Please like and subscribe so you never miss another video, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great week.